that. I bugged out for just a sec there. That was most unusual. It didn't actually quit Discord for me. So I don't know how much of that you heard, but we'll kick into it with education. Then we'll talk about the app, why it's cool, and why you should care. And if someone can hear me, please drop a note in chat to let me know I'm not speaking into the void. Okay, amazing. Then Vida, I'll kick it over to you. We'll talk about education, and then we'll leak a little bit alpha, answer some questions. Or maybe we won't do that. Looks like we lost Vida, so we will actually, in that case, just get right into it. But before we do that, I wanted to also bring Marina off mute and hear a little bit about her vacation. So Marina, tell us what you've been doing in the last 3 weeks, other than writing novels and amazing guides about how to do top tier analysis.
Hello, everyone. It's so great to be back and back into high gear. My vacation was spent entirely at home, nothing interesting to report. Some, as GJ hinted, some work on some education, some work on helping all our analysts do all your best in creating great professional outputs. So some work did creep in, and I'm really excited for everything that we're going to be planning now with community and with helping analysts. All of you make great outputs and just like all the fun things we're going to start planning and doing. And I'm also really excited for the app alpha today on this call.
Awesome. Well, this is as good a time to get into it. I'm going to introduce Jim and give him the floor for about 5 minutes to talk about the app, but also the underlying primitive tech stack that it's built on top. I will take about 60 seconds to talk about how we got here, turn it over to Jim, he'll chat, I'll ask him a few questions, and then we'll spend the bulk of the time answering questions in the Q&A channel. And by Q&A channel, I mean the chat. The chat is now a Q&A channel. We voted, it's settled. How we got here. Flipside ran a bounty program. It was amazing. It very quickly scaled to a point that was challenging to do manually. Some of those challenges persist still in the way we currently do things. For example, the review process, the payment process. We know that these are important. We know that the quality of reviews is important. We've heard that feedback. We know that time to payment is really important and shortening that gap. And so the GigaBrains have been working on tech to make it happen. Our belief is that a decentralized labor system is both more censorship resistant and capable of scaling way beyond what we would ever be able to do. And that part of the way to do that involves flexible, or what we call liquid, labor mechanisms that enable specialized networks, networks of senior reviewers, networks of SQL experts, networks of Solana specialists to be able to form and gain an outside share of rewards for their efforts and their specialization. But we needed tech to do that. And I'm going to have Jim come on and talk a little bit about what we built, why we built it, and how it matters for you. And then we'll answer some questions, and I'll talk about what this means in practice for timelines, how the program is going to change, what problems we hope it's going to solve, and a little bit about the roadmap. So Jim, I will kick it over to you.
Thanks, GJ. So we've spent the past several months incubating, and actually more than the past several months, probably the past year, helping incubate and develop the tech that's going to power a lot of what GJ talked about, the metrics protocol. So before I dive into that, I want to just quickly kind of start with what got me originally excited about this space and why I think this matters so much. Back when I got started in 2015, what inspired me about blockchain was this idea that humans kind of from all over the world could be brought together to tackle problems, not with a central authority dictating their work, but merely by programming incentives into contracts to coordinate collaboration. To me, that's magical. And Flipside's bounty programs, MetricsDAO's bounty program, they've accomplished a lot over the past year. As GJ talked about, we've coordinated hundreds of thousands of bounties, but that's a very manual process, and that's difficult to scale. And if you're the one helping operate those programs, I can promise you that it's not a very fun job coordinating everything. And so I feel like we're finally at a place that we're able to realize that idea of how can we use incentives on chain to help coordinate collaboration from skilled workers all over the world. And so we designed the Metrics protocol to help make that possible, to connect brightest minds, no matter where they are, to solve problems not just in crypto, but in all industries where analytics and data is used. And the core engine behind this, driving this, is what we call a labor market. And the simple idea of a labor market is that it connects people that need work done with those that have the skills to do the work without any central authority coordinating that activity. Everything from what requests get worked on, who can participate, how work is reviewed, and how people are paid, it's all driven by on-chain code and a token-driven incentive. So there's no manual process of operating this network. This is a really big unlock, and it's one of the first implementations I've seen that really leverages blockchain tech to make decentralized work coordination possible. I can go a layer deeper, but I'm going to pause there for a moment. GJ, any way you want to, where you want to go next? I can dig into kind of some of the actors in the network and how the protocol works. What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about specialized networks and being able to create your own marketplace and your own network permissionlessly.
Yeah, cool. So a labor market can be essentially, if you think about a labor market, it's really just a group of requesters that have analytical challenges or problems that need to be solved, and then a group of analysts that are there to solve those, and then reviewers that sort of ensure the quality of the system and keep requests flowing through it. Now, the labor market itself is highly configurable. Like you can, the incentives that we've developed around it enable you to gate who can access it based on reputation. You can also gate who's access to it by badges. So you could think of a labor market as being created for, it could be created for a topic, say, for example, like optimism or base, as a blockchain to ask questions about those. It could also be created, though, for a group. So, for example, the Pine DAO could create their own labor market, and then you could request work to be done by that group. Now, within the labor market, like how work gets prioritized and how much that work costs, that's sort of all driven by the token incentives around it. There's going to be a token, the metric token, which any requester, when they ask for work to be done, they can attach to a request. And that is paid out to people that review the solutions that are given to those requests. So a requester comes in, puts a challenge forth. Analysts can take that challenge on. They're paid in native tokens. So, if you are putting a request through, you could attach USDC to it, and you would attach the metric token. The USDC is paid out to the analyst, and then the metric is paid out to a reviewer. And the reviewers and the analysts, they kind of signal their intent to work on it, which determines the network capacity. So, that you can think about that a bit like gas in a network. So determining how much supply and demand there is of labor at any given time.
Yeah, so let me talk really quickly about the significance of that from an operator side. A couple things. First, it means that anyone can come and create a marketplace. You don't need to go through us. You can just do it. And then you can also configure who gets to tackle a challenge. They need to have a certain badge, for example. They need to meet some set of criteria. But anyone can create their own networks, and anyone can establish their own criteria to create a marketplace of marketplaces, to create opportunities for people who have a certain criteria to be able to learn. I will drop a little bit of extra alpha and say we've been kicking around internally. What if we combine this functionality with attribution? there's been a lot of talk about, hey, I do great work and then someone comes along and copies it and sort of steals my thunder. We think that there might be some open design space to solve for that by the tech stack that we're building. But in the more immediate short term, we can establish specialized reviewer networks. So similar to the Samurai review network that we have, but you could imagine a whole group of those all based on different criteria, each of which gets paid to review different sets of questions, different sets of challenges. And so our hope is that as we tweak the incentives, we'll be able to control for and specialize for and observe what the best results drivers are. This is part of what we've been trying with the Samurai, for example, but that is currently heavily permissioned. It's heavily dependent on us establishing that. As more networks come into view, instead of us spinning up and creating every one, anyone will be able to initiate and establish those networks, and it'll end up being a competition that over time will reveal what works best, what set of reviewers work best, how do we want to restrict or gate challenges, which is another thing I'm really excited about. Right now, if I just want, I'll just pick on MarkU, for example. If I only want MarkU to be able to claim a challenge, that's actually pretty arduous for me to do. This will be trivially easy to do in the new structure with marketplaces, and that will enable much more targeted and focused and specialized working groups to establish, which will lead to higher pay for those analysts who fulfill that specific set of criteria, and also easier coordination. So as an example, if you're known to be a Solana specialist, I can create my own network and add you to the network of Solana specialists, and your specialization in Solana will enable you access to specific Solana questions that would be harder and higher paid than what we would generally run with the bounty. So we're really excited about that. We are optimistic that this is going to cut down on time to pay as well, which is another major pain point since the rewards will be attached to these marketplaces. And we are hoping that that is going to improve the user experience as well. Let me take a quick breath and check the chat for any questions that may have cropped up. Are we going to get bounties to go through this? I can't promise anything, but that sure would be a great way to teach people to use the protocol in the app, wouldn't it? As for open source contracts, Jim, why don't you take that one?
Yeah, the contracts are actually all open right now on the MetricsDAO GitHub, so you can go take a look at them. Everything that we've built is all there and open to view.
I'm going to link to the revised docs that we've been working on. They are still fairly dense, but this links out both to the app and to the protocol documentation. So if you want to do further reading, you are free to do so and dig in. We welcome the feedback. We're going to continue really pushing on documentation and improving that. As part of that, you'll see that the current showcase and dashboard pages, 404, we've cut those over to legacy pages. Those links have been shared in Discord, and I'll get our existing links in Discord updated today to point to those. But we've got a lot of new versions of some of this stuff coming. So we're in a transition period for the moment while we continue to squeeze out bugs and do some testing, which leads me to opportunities to get involved. Phase 2. We would love people to come and bang on this and help us test it. So I will put an announcement up formally later this week, but you can consider this the early announcement. We're looking for beta testers. If you want to get an early look at this, please DM me, let me know, and we are happy to get you involved and get you some early looks at it before it goes live for everybody. We are still in the process. We are working hard. The team is working super hard to get this out. So we will welcome the help and the understanding they come with. We're still super early in it. We're still going to be working through bugs early on. And we are hoping that the DAO and the community will help us do that.
We'll also have, GJ, in the coming weeks, a white paper on labor markets and on the protocol. So you'll be able to kind of go through a more technical or economics-driven deep dive of how the incentives work.
Yeah, good call out on that. I've read, I think, the early version, but probably not the new version. So I'm excited to dig into that. It will talk more about the incentive structure that powers the whole thing. Raquel, I got you. We'll get you set up to test. Okay. This is a bit of an early leak, but it serves me right to get front run. New website as well. Totally fine, Elise. I'm going to get it back by putting you on the spot to chat a little bit about some of the work from the coordination and the product side that we've been doing to organize all this, culminating in the new website.
Sorry, GJ. Yeah, so as you all will see in the link I just sent, we actually have a refreshed MetricsDAO website where you can learn a lot more about the upcoming protocol release and how the marketplaces work. Yes, very new and shiny. It's beautiful. Shout out to a lot of people for helping pull this together. You'll notice we have a link to our protocol white paper, which I shared, our docs, governance, partner opportunities. You'll also notice some call to actions to view bounties or launch the app. This will continue for the next few weeks to link to our existing Notion workflow. And eventually this will be replaced by the ability to actually access the app and participate in these labor markets. So stay tuned for more information on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Elise. I'm getting a bunch of DMs from folks who are interested in testing, so I'll try to set those aside. Let me take a quick pause to see if there are any other questions that I missed before we transition to talk a little bit about timeline and what's coming next and what you can expect. Looks like we caught just about everything. Cool. So am I allowed to leak dates, Elise, or is that still under wraps?
Leak away.
Awesome. We are scheduled for public release, what we're calling, well, I think we're calling it phase 3 still. There are a bunch of phases. March 21st, so 2 short weeks away. There will, of course, be bugs, there will be feedback. We intend to fix all of that. But this lines up with our aspirations to end season 3 and launch season 4. So after a brief period to get some feedback, to understand what's working, what's not, we will kick off the voting period for season 4 at the end of March, and then kick off season 4 itself, fully live, new and improved in early April. And so we are super looking forward to driving as much volume through the app, to using that to vanish some of the problems that come from trying to do all this and manage it manually, and to getting more people who are experts in creating their own marketplaces and using it, and working with those folks to continue to run and scale the bounty program. We're talking with a lot of data providers who are interested in this. I won't leak out on any names just yet, but we will be featuring various elements of the app over the next couple weeks, especially on community calls. So definitely continue to put this on your calendar, and you'll get some screenshots, you'll get some early looks. And then in April, we will continue to drive volume, and we'll be able to do it with technology, which, speaking for myself as a coordinator of some of these challenges, and also for the Bounty Ops team, is going to be, Marina's put it there, it's going to be super lit. We are incredibly excited about the customizability, the knobs we can turn to ensure that anyone who wants to can launch a marketplace, and also that people who are really specialized and who are experts get extra opportunities, are able to get paid, and that we can continue to cut down on some of the delays that just are part and parcel of a manual system. I'm going to take one more quick breath there, and then just talk a little bit about some practical stuff. But before I do that, Jim, anything else that you want to feature or highlight on the app side about the protocol or the primitive tech stack?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I often I think a lot about is just, at Flipside, we spend our days thinking about like, how do we help blockchain ecosystems succeed and live up to their full potential? And a lot of times I think that means, helping builders develop solutions that solve real problems and, building things enabled by blockchain tech. And this is what we're building here is an actual solution to a real problem. How do you tap into sort of a global workforce of skilled, people that have skills to answer questions, and it's enabled purely by blockchain technology, by smart contracts, by incentive design. So I feel really proud about what this team has built to deliver a real solution enabled by smart contract tech and blockchain tech.
Yeah, there's a lot of chatter about when are there going to be real use cases, when are there going to be actual applications that people use, and we're building one, and it's something that anyone is going to be able to use, which is, this is why we do it, right? This is why you get involved in the space. So we are excited to get your feedback. We're excited to get more people testing during phase 2, which will launch sometime late this week, and we're super excited to iterate as much as we can and to take feedback into design and ultimately into shipping new features. So we are, really, really, really excited. That's the short version. Before I run out of time, let me do some of just the standard business. I'm going to drop a link to the challenges page for the ongoing challenges that we have. We are continuing to scale the number of challenges. So more opportunities than ever to come test it out and get paid. Over time, obviously, you'll be able to use the app to do this, and the whole experience is going to get miles better. But in the meantime, for the rest of March, we'll continue to run things through Notion as opposed to marketplaces. So there it is. On the documentation side, as I said, we're going to continue to start linking to the docs. And so there's going to be a dramatic cleanup of our existing documentation, and also within Discord, where do I go to find this thing? Where do I go to find the showcase? Where do I go to find the payment timeframes? We have done a pretty good job cutting down the average time to payment. We're going to continue focusing on that, as well as the quality of reviews. This is something that Reviewer Networks is going to solve. It's really difficult to solve manually because ultimately it's still, one person, me, or a small group of people selecting reviewer networks. Once we have reviewer networks to choose from and track and see how they perform against each other, we are confident that this is going to squeeze out the problems that we're seeing with reviews and re-reviews. In the meantime, we set up a new forum for community review. If you think something has been judged unjustly, you can grade someone else's submission within the community review channel, get a golden ticket for doing so, and then spend that golden ticket to have someone else from the DAO review your work. And if it turns out you were judged, unfairly, if the review wasn't, accurate to the quality of the work, then we'll cheer you up. We'll make you right on the payment side. So we're going to continue to focus on payments and reviews with the understanding that having the app is just going to make a lot of this possible, as opposed to us continuing to patch manual processes. So I can't say that enough. We're excited about a decentralized tech stack to really take this and scale it to the next level. And it's coming very, very soon. I think that's everything for our regularly scheduled programming. Any questions before we run out of time, before we wrap things up? All right, awesome. Big thank you to Jim for dropping by. We're going to be doing this more often. We will do our best to build in public, to continue to share what we're working on, dive into some of the specifics of how all this works, how the technology works. Just a reminder, the docs are out there. Feel free to read through. Take a look at GitHub if you feel so inclined, and continue to ask us questions. And we will continue for our part to be as transparent as possible about what we are building, when it's coming, and what problems we're hoping it's going to solve. So with that, happy Tuesday, everybody. Thank you for dropping by. We will see you a week from now. And in the meantime, we'll be active in Discord. So drop us your questions and your comments there.